That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about the 80th Venice Film Festival Best and Worst Selections.
It's the 80th.
It is the 80th.
Oh, wow. I thought it was the 76th, but okay.
No, it is the world's oldest film festival.
It is.
It predates Cannes and Locarno and Berlin. Yeah.
So the festival was from August 30th to September 9th, and you were in attendance.
Yes.
How many films did you watch total?
Just 53.
5-3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm never trying to outdo any number. It ends up being what it is.
I don't think anyone accused you of that, but okay. So you're going to tell us your favorites.
Yeah, I'll do a top 10 and my 5 least favorite across the entire program, not just of the competition.
Which would you like to start
with? And I don't
with?
know if you wanted to talk about the award winners.
Well, I think it makes sense to do that at the end.
Sure.
So which would you like to start with?
Well, let's get the worst out of the way. Nobody likes to be negatively criticized.
Number 5.
Behind the Mountains, part of the Horizonte Horizons sidebar, directed by Mohamed Ben Attia, Moroccan filmmaker who I have seen 2 previous films of, Hedi and Dear Son, both starring the same lead, Majid Mastura. This I thought was really frustrating and cornball because it opens with a man that it seems like he's trying to kill himself. He's just jumping. He goes berserk in an office setting and jumps out a window. They bring him to a psychiatric facility. He tries to jump out a window again. And then 10 years pass or some amount of time. And then he goes and literally kidnaps his son with his wife that's divorced him because they don't know how to deal with him. And then he drags this kid off to the mountains. And we realize that he believes he can fly like R. Kelly. Oh. And I did not care for this.
It must not be good because that kind of sounds interesting.
It does kind of sound interesting, but I do not like it.
Number 4.
Number 4 is also out of the Horizonte Horizon sidebar, Shadow of Fire, directed by the great Shinya Tsukamoto, who's probably still best known in the West for his Tetsuo the Iron Man films. But whenever he inevitably pops up at a film festival, I always seek his stuff out because it's usually weird and interesting and dark. This technically is the end of a thematic war trilogy that includes the remake Shadows on the Plain and The Killer or Killing, which both I've seen years ago. This is set right after the end of World War II, and it focuses on a woman who has resorted to being a sex worker that works in this little shanty/restaurant, and there's kind of this ersatz family that happens with this homeless little boy that brings her squash to eat, and a soldier who, of course, uses her for her services and then goes berserk. It just is overwrought. It looks kind of cheap, and it was just a slog to sit through. It was the kind of miserablism that seems like pure exploitation fuel.
Number 3.
Vermin, which I think closed the Critics Week section or was one of the last films to show in that, directed by Sebastian Vanacek. It's a creature feature, usually, which I like. This is about very toxic poisonous spiders that get unleashed somewhere in Paris because of this young man that likes to collect exotic things but not know how to control them. It feels very much like Arachnophobia meets Attack the Block, but without as fun as either of those films would suggest it would be.
Number 2.
The Order of Time. Oh, I read the book by astrophysicist Carlo Rovelli in anticipation of this because I'm a big Liliana Cavani film. This is her first theatrical narrative, I think, since 2003. I was very interested to see how she was going to approach an adaptation, a narrative adaptation of this book. And I think that the idea behind her approach is interesting because it's about a bunch of people that gather at this seaside coastal resort, and they're all filthy rich, but for this woman's birthday party who's a mutual friend, and then they've all just been recently made aware that an asteroid is about to hit the Earth and they're gonna die. And by the time you get to the end of this damn movie, you're gonna wish that asteroid hit.
Oh, well. And your least favorite film of the festival?
Cavani was out of competition, by the way. This film is also out of competition. Aggro Drift, the latest film from Harmony Korine, which was the only film that was very actively booed that I was at. And booing isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes a film is booed and it happens to be something I loved. And this this was not it. At 80 minutes, it felt like twice that. I hated it. It was like watching a video game. It's shot in infrared photography, and it looks really cool. That's what I think is. That's why this is number one. I think it's so disappointing that there's so much that could have worked for this, basically on how it looked, and it does. It feels like watching a misogynist video game. It's about a pair of assassins played by Jordi Mola and Travis Scott, and how they're
the musician. Oh,
and how they have to defeat this demonic underlord in Miami. It feels like you took an acid tab or two and ended up in Spring Breakers zone with Harmony Korine, but the dialogue is atrocious. It is laughable. It is a new camp classic, but not in a fun way. And I didn't like it.
Moving on to things you liked. Number 10.
Number 10, Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay, which also didn't get a lot of love, at least I thought. And I talked to a lot of people while I was there about this film. And of course, I read the book by Isabel Wilkerson that it is based on. And I think it does a lot of things well. I think that Europeans, maybe Italians in particular, don't care to or are able to kind of get into what experiences are like for Black people in America, perhaps. And so I don't know if the material seemed off-putting to them, because there were some turkeys in this competition, and this was the lowest rated across the board film, which I thought was shocking. But I think DuVernay's approach is really interesting, and it's basically the biopic of a book, because it's about the writing of this book by Isabel Wilkerson, and I think it has a great lead performance from Ingenue Ellis, who I've liked for many years, and after her recent Oscar nod is finally starting to get lead roles like I think she's always deserved to. I think it's a really good ensemble cast. I think DuVernay might lean a little too heavily into sentimentalism by the last few frames, but I really thought her approach was innovative, and I thought it was a really interesting film.
Number 9.
The Vordelak, directed by Adrien Beau, French Film and Critics Week. This was also not a beloved film based on the people I talked to. I think I was one of the few that really liked it. It's kind of a classic vampire tale. It's based on a short story by Alexei Tolstoy, but I thought it was a lot of fun. Ariane Labette, who's the wife of Yorgos Lanthimos, won some kind of award out of Critics Week for her performance, but the special effects, because they used this model, they use practical effects for the vampire. That is, because in this story, vampires only kill ones they love, so they decimate their own families.
Oh.
I was very entertained by this film.
Number 8.
Paradise is Burning, directed by Mika Gustafsson, Swedish, and I believe she won Best Director out of the Horizonte Horizon Sidebar, and has a pretty damn good lead performance from a newcomer, Bianca Del Bravo, and I also liked her energy with her co-star Ida Engvall. It's bizarre. It's about a trio of sisters whose parents are gone. It's hinted at that they might have buried mom in the backyard, so they can survive on their own. But the eldest daughter, Laura, is unable. She skipped school one day and she's unable to forge her mother's signature in time to have the school not become involved, and because of her past history, they're going to send a social worker to come monitor and talk to their mother, who is of course not there. So it's about this one weekend where she's having high anxiety about trying to find somebody to pose as their mother, while we're also getting introduced to this strange dynamic with her two younger sisters. It also, the final moments of the film featured a song that is my current favorite on my playlist. It's the Vitalik remix of a song by Amadou and Marion called Sabali, which means patience.
That's ironic.
Anyhow, I enjoyed the film.
Number 7.
The Theory of Everything, not the Stephen Hawking biopic. This film does need a new title, in my opinion, but it's the second film from German filmmaker Tim Kroger. It's set in the 1962 Swiss Alps, where this group of scientists are gathering to hear this Iranian scientist who never makes it to the conference to talk about quantum theory, and there's basically a time loop portal underneath the mountains. It very much reads like espionage films from Hitchcock in the early 40s or late 30s, like 39 Steps came to mind, or Foreign Correspondent, but especially Fritz Lang because of the German component, and the energy of it very much has like a Ray Milland in Ministry of Fear. So I really appreciated that. I think it builds to a nice crescendo. Time Crimes, if you like that film by Nacho Vigalondo, or The Sticky Fingers of Time by Hilary Brower. If you like any of those kind of like lo-fi sci-fi movies, I think this is up your alley.
Number 6.
The Kane Mutiny Court Martial, directed the last film of not only William Friedkin, but Lance Reddick, I believe. So, of course, there's the classic Edward Dmytryk Kane Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart, that, of course, is based on the Herman Wouk novel. And there's a play version of just the courtroom section. Robert Altman made a late 80s television production of just this segment. So I've watched those all in quick succession and kind of had tempered expectations about going into this because of the familiarity. And it's the last film by a much older director, but boy, the energy in this is up there. It is very well done. I think Jason Clarke and Lance Reddick, even Kiefer Sutherland, who I really don't care for usually, all fine performances, like top notch. Even having just watched this material, I was in it. It's good.
What number are we on now?
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5 is Out of Season, directed by Stéphane Brisé. The last film...
Stephen King.
The last film to show in the competition. And Brisé, I find interesting. Sometimes he does really intriguing work, like with his Guy de Maupassant adaptation of a woman's life. Back in 2016, which was also in Venice. And sometimes he kind of repeats the same kind of materials, especially working with Vincent Lindon so many times. But this one stars Guillaume Canet and Alba Rohrwacher as lovers who are reunited after an absence of 15 years. And you've seen this material before, but it is very well done. Alba Rohrwacher is so good, but it's very much Claude Lelouch's A Man and a Woman, or Brief Encounter by David Lean. Even Brisé, the closest thing he's already done to this is Mademoiselle Chambon from 2009. But if you like any of these people, it is a very well done film. I liked it a lot.
Number 4.
Number 4, I was very surprised at how much I liked this film. Also showed on the last day of the competition, was Memory. I had a joke about you, but we won't go into that now. And it stars Jessica Chastain and Peter Sarsgaard, who won Best Actor for this performance at the award ceremony. And it's a Michel Franco film, who usually is kind of a nihilist who's really wishing to provoke and push buttons. And to me, this is the first film that he's presented where he seems to have actual compassion for his characters. Jessica Chastain is this social worker working in an adult daycare center. She's a recovering alcoholic. She's a single mother. It seems like she has a routine and a rhythm that can't really be strayed from too far. She kind of keeps her daughter locked up in their very nice interior Brooklyn apartment. And then one day she, with her younger sister, Merritt Wever, they went to the same high school, and this man, Peter Sarsgaard, approaches Jessica Chastain and Sylvia, and it's a wordless exchange. She leaves and he follows her home. It's very creepy. He sleeps outside in the rain outside of her apartment, and come to find he has early onset dementia. So she calls his brother because he's got one of those name tags explaining that. But she thinks that he's a man that sexually assaulted her when she was 12 regularly outside of the school. But there are other secrets that also come up. Jessica Harper plays her terrible mother. I thought it was very well done. Those who seem prone to already disliking Michel Franco, of which there are many, might not be won over, but I was. We did review his film New Order.
Number 3.
Hitman, directed by Richard Linklater, which should have been in competition. Especially because David Fincher's The Killer was in competition, I think this would have made a great corresponding thing. It's very much a smart, borderline slapstick comedy starring Glenn Powell, who also co-wrote it. Powell is, if you have been kind of bored by him before, this is really announcing himself in a big way. He's giving me big Robert Redford / early Brad Pitt energy. He's a high school teacher by day who works with the police in sting operations, posing as a hitman for people that are looking for hired assassins. So you meet them and you're bugged, and you try to get them to make the exchange of money and say that I want to kill this person so and so. And he goes, a chance opportunity, somebody gets suspended, one of the cops, and they say, we need somebody to play the hitman, it's got to be you. And he kind of falls into this hook, line, and sinker, and then ends up having a relationship with a woman that he thinks is beautiful, that he convinces not to go forward with the hit, and then ends up dating her, and complications ensue. I thought this was magical. This film was a lot of fun.
Number two
was Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, which of course won the Golden Lion, which I think was apparent to almost everybody that once it screened that this would probably win. Emma Stone, despite maybe arguably an iffy British accent, I think is fantastic in it, as in this kind of feminist homage to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's of course based on Scottish writer Alistair Gray's book, which I also read. I think that Lanthimos takes certain liberties, which I think enhance this material greatly. Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, almost everybody is so damn good. There's one person I thought was a little bit stiff in it, Gerard Carmichael, which was disappointing to me. Hannah Scheigele. This is also a magical film. The production design is exquisite. It is very impressive on every level.
And your favorite film from the festival?
My favorite film was Labette the Beast, directed by Bertrand Bonello, which is of course giving us the closest thing to Zulawski that we will get. I love the source material. It's based on a 1902 novella from Henry James, which was earlier adapted this year by Patrick Chiha, The Beast in the Jungle. The novella is about a man who believes that something terrible is going to happen to him, and a woman that is attracted to him, and because of that, they basically just stay stuck in one place until time runs out and they die. The extra dimension that Bonello brings to it is about love, and this is set in three distinct time periods: 1910, 2014, and 2044, I believe, where we've come to the frontier of where emotions are being scrubbed out of humans because we can't trust our emotions, and kind of how through these two periods the two same people keep meeting, Léa Seydoux and George Mackay, and because their love has always been stymied by something until the 2044 version. Léa Seydoux is... I don't know anybody that cries better in film. In such abstract scenarios, it is very impressive and thrilling to me. It ends on a pitch-perfect note, this howl of anguish and rage. It's, I want to say 2 hours and 44 minutes, somewhere in there. It's lengthy, but oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. If you are a fan of Bruno Dumont's France and Léa Seydoux, this should be on your radar, must see.
Well, what a treat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the awards for the 80th edition, the official awards. There are like 100 of them.
No, we'll just talk about the main
No,
ones.
I know, but I mean, that kind of takes away from how special anything is. But you already gave away a couple. So the Golden Lion went to...
Poor Things.
Which you agree with.
Yorgos. I mean, I'm very sad that Bonello and Léa Seydoux went home empty-handed, but I'm not surprised. People just aren't on that wavelength, I guess.
The Grand Jury Prize is like second place?
Yes.
And that went to...
Evil Does Not Exist by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. This was meant to be a short film, and I think that to me it's apparent that it was meant to be. I love Hamaguchi, but I was not sold on this film.
Special Jury Prize is like third place?
Yes, and I think everybody is worried that Green Border by Agnieszka Holland would win, and it's a grueling...
It did win.
They thought it was going to win the Golden Lion.
Oh.
Yes, because it's dealing with something very contemporary and ongoing, basically about how shitty Poland is and how they are treating Syrian refugees or any brown people based on how, and especially the film ends with a counterpoint of or paralleling how Ukrainian refugees are treated. But basically, the Lukashenko, the Belarusian president had fooled all these people into thinking like, I'll give you passage through Belarus to Poland, and therefore you'll be able to seek refuge in Europe. And then these people get stuck in this terrible situation where they're tossed back and forth between these two borders and are tortured and murdered. It's a 3-hour film-ish, and the first 2 hours, I think, are really hard to watch, but in a way that I feel is important to bear witness to. And then it becomes, at the end of it, it's like we got to show like the good Polish people, because there are people that are trying to do the right thing. It's like, I don't need to see all that. I know that there are good people in every scenario, and I don't need to see this hand wringing.
Best Actress.
Who won Best Actress again?
Cailee.
Oh God!
Spaeny.
So that was another major thing. Léa Seydoux didn't win Best Actress, and Emma Stone, of course, couldn't win because it won the top prize, so they can't share those prizes. But Cailee Spaeny, who played Priscilla Presley, gives a fine enough performance. But even if you didn't like Léa Seydoux, or that was too abstract for you, there was Carey Mulligan in Maestro, who I thought superseded Bradley Cooper even in that movie. I don't understand why that struck a chord with anyone, but.
Best Actor.
Best Actor was
Peter Sarsgaard.
Sarsgaard. Yeah, I think that there were a limited number of people that could have taken that award. Maybe Bradley Cooper. There was somebody else that was a strong contender. But yeah, that is fine. He also had the 3-page paper that he brought up and read out loud.
What's the Marcello Mastroianni Award?
For young actor award.
And that went to Seydou Sarr?
Yes, who made his debut, who apparently is a TikTok star, who made his debut in
Lo Capitano?
The Captain, directed by Matteo Garrone, which I've seen a lot of films from contemporary Italian filmmakers dealing with the refugee crisis. And this had some light elements of magical realism, but otherwise this felt like a lot of things. But it was fine. He's the best part of it. So I was surprised that there was a very director-heavy jury, like Jane Campion and Mia Hansen-Love and Laura Poitras. So I found it interesting that for the Best Director of the award, they gave it to Garrone. And I think that probably there's always this pressure that's, because like Cannes has to have a certain number of French filmmakers in the competition. So of course in Venice we had 4 or 5 Italian filmmakers. And of the Italian films in competition, Garrone's arguably was the best. So I felt like they had to fit him in there somewhere.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I guess not.
Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.